short fuse, quick reactions, flying off the handle, losing my cool completely. This is something that in the last couple of weeks has happened quite a bit. It's been something, as I laugh through it, it's something that my mom taught me, where it wasn't to sit in something and beat yourself up over it. It was to simply shrug your shoulders and just say, shit. Like, that's been me. And I sat with my wife last night, and I wanted to take my insecurities and then turn them into, well, it went to pride, and then it went to ego, and it started to say, like, hey, this is why I was justified. And before I could even go there, God convicted me right away. And he was like, look, the only thing that all these situations and people have in common with you being, having a short fuse and being frustrated and having quick responses, things like that, the only thing they have in common is you. So let's look at you and let's see how we could keep our cool. And so that was the whole thing. I was walking on the beach this morning, and I was just looking at the water, and it was calming me down a bit and stuff like that. But I was just thinking about, like, how can I keep my cool? How can I keep my cool when circumstances don't always go my way? And I want to invite you to look at these kind of things. I know that every one of you is perfect, though, so you guys can just judge me today. I'm the only one that kind of loses their cool, has short reactions, gets frustrated, has a quick temper, whatever it is. So I know all of you guys are perfect, but I'm the one that has been challenged in these times. And so I was sitting down, and I started reading Proverbs 7 today, which is the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day. And I was thinking about, these little Inchstones, stuff like that. And I just turned this little OG surfer, this guy, his name is Pete. He's awesome. He comes out of the water all the time, and he always yells out. I'm sitting on my chair and, not surfing. And I'm writing and reading, and he always calls me. He's like, hey, bestseller, what you doing over there? And he comes over and stands next to me today. And I was like, hey, Pete, what's the wisdom for today? A year ago, you told me one spouse, one house. And then he just walked away. And I was like, man, that was awesome. What's the wisdom of today? And he said, well, what do you mean? I said, man, how do you keep your cool? And he said, most of the time, I just think it could always be worse. And it just stopped me in my tracks for a second. And he said, yeah, if I always think about that, I seem to be able to move on. And then he's like, and if I encounter somebody who's lost their cool, I always ask them, are you tired or are you constipated? And he just stopped, and he dropped that on me. And then he's like, all right, cool, I got to go. And I was like, all right, peace. Have a great day, Pete. And imagine that, to keep your cool, to be able to test and see, are you tired? Or are you constipated? That's what he was asking. And so in Proverbs 7 today, it talked about how to be able to keep our cool, because it explains this. This is amazing that, 3,000 years ago, it knew what, God knew exactly what I was going to be dealing with today and in these, last couple of weeks. And in Proverbs 7, it talks about, like, prepare for it, prepare for the cool, to keep it, because the heat is inevitably coming through circumstance, through life, through all these things. So why don't we get this party started?
Nothing more on my mind. I got two shines, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
We're excited to announce that the Vibe Room is coming very soon in November. We're having another Vibe Room there in Salt Lake City at the Edison House. It's going to be awesome. Our last guest was an amazing guy named Roy Tuscany. And Roy Tuscany has the High Fives Foundation. And have you ever, have you or someone that you know sustained a life-changing injury in outdoor sports? Find a community. Again, at the High Fives Foundation, visit our website at highfivesfoundation.org. And so he helps people who have had life-changing industries to get back in the saddle, to experience extreme sports, get outdoors, do amazing things. And Roy Tuscany, my hat's off to you. I absolutely love you. I hope I get a chance to be able to see you today in Oceanside. I love you, my man. So let's go to this this Proverbs 7 today, because keeping your cool is something that it happened to me a while back. I had a product that I wanted to create, and my brother was the manager for Vanderlei Silva, and he's one of the greatest fighters in UFC history. And at the time, he was like the top of the food chain. And my brother was his agent, and so I got a chance to be able to talk to him. And he told me about some skin conditions that were happening with a lot of fighters at his gym. And I said, well, tea tree can help that. So why don't we make a Vanderlei Silva body wash? And so I went through the development, did the logos, all the stuff, got it. And I was so excited about it. And it honestly was the biggest flop that I've ever done. It didn't sell at all. No one bought it. It didn't move. It sat on shelves, all these things. And I could have lost my cool during that time. But in the box, the first shipment, there was a little bottle that they had sent out to the product manufacturer that we had connected with, sent out a little bottle. And in that little bottle, it was a shine serum that we tested out, and we absolutely loved it. We had to change a couple things about it, but when we tested on everyone absolutely fell in love. And when they fell in love with it, it actually became the #1 selling product of all time in our whole entire company. And that one is this one here. It's called BLING, and it adds moisture, strength, shine. I didn't set out to do this. This was the mistake. I could have lost my cool when Vanderlei Silva body wash didn't sell, but I got BLING. And so this is one of those things that when Pete was talking about, OG Pete, the surfer, when he was saying, like, it always can be worse. Things could always be worse than they are right now. So keep your cool. And most of the time, when you've lost your cool, it's because you weren't rested. This is from Pete. Either you don't have enough sleep or you're constipated. That's what he said. And it's hilarious in that. But, Proverbs 7, it's great because it delivers bombs that are right in line with Pete's OG surfer wisdom. And most of the time when we act out of character, my mom would always say, like, don't make a decision when you're tired, when you're hungry. There was a couple other ones that she said, but those are the main ones that I remember. And also what Pete helped us to think of is, like, if you're constipated, if you're if you're full of it, then don't make decisions during that time, because you're probably not going to keep your cool. And so it goes through, and it was really simple today in Proverbs 7, the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day. Because it said, like, keep your cool. How can we just keep our cool? Well, keep, store up, keep, guard, bind, write, and speak. And so keep is what? God is saying, like, keep his wisdom. In verse 1-5, it talks about keeping his wisdom, his commands, his word. How can we go get it in the first place? Well, we can read it. And how can it come alive as opposed to just be words on the page? Spend time with him. As we'll read the word first, and then allow the word to read you. And the word has been reading me lately, because it's been a mirror. It's been like, yo, you've been out of character. You've been losing your cool. So why don't we just come back to this, look at it and say, like, as opposed to looking at everything else and projecting, look at yourself and how can you get better in this. So #1 is keep. Well, we got to go get it first and then keep it. And then he said, store it up. And then he said, keep it again. And then he said, once you get it, then guard it. Guard it with everything that you have. Guard that wisdom. Guard your heart as you can. Bind it on your heart. And the way that we bind it is by writing it and speaking it. So read it, write it, and speak it, and it'll bind everywhere in your life. And and again, it's just very simple. In verse 6-27, that's the rest of the proverb. It talked about that the heat is coming 1 degree at a time. You see, I used to talk about it as the dimmer switch theory. And we used to talk about this with employees when we were growing kids. We would grow, we'd take them from like 19, and be, our our career path for them was about 3 to 4 years. We could take them to a 6-figure income on a 4-day work week. So they could have 3 days with their family. They could make 6 figures. They would change the way that they thought about money. We helped them, in those ways. But I told them, I said, guys, the things that will deter you will not come in an instant. They'll come like a dimmer switch. It'll get a little bit darker, 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 until you're all the way in the dark. And then when you realize, then you start to think like, oh my gosh, what do I need to do now to be able to change everything? Well, it didn't happen overnight, and it won't change overnight. And those are the big parts that will happen. The heat is coming. This is what God was talking about in 6 through 27, but it comes 1 degree at a time. So sometimes we can never see it, but that's why he says, be on alert. That's why he says, keep it. And he says, store it up. And he says, keep it. And he says, guard it. Says, bind it, write it, speak it, right? Read it, write it, speak it, read it, write it, speak it. And if I read it, write it, speak it on Monday, does that cover me for Friday? No. What if I do it on Monday and then on Friday, does that cover me on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday? No, it's every single day, as much as you possibly can, and store that up. It's just like any relationship. If you think you could set it and forget it, if it's in a relationship or a business, if you think you could set and forget a culture, I mean, I've made those mistakes, and that wouldn't be uninhibited, constant communication will break down all walls, and it makes a world of difference. So it runs down what heat will be. So heat is coming 1 degree at a time. Heat will never seem like heat. It won't be like, hey, I'm coming 1 degree at a time to make you really, really, really uncomfortable. It's not going to happen. It'll never seem like heat. It'll never seem like what it is. Like something that's going to take you off track is not going to yell out, hey, I'm going to take you off track. Nah, it's just going to go in one little tiny dimmer switch, just a little bit by little bit by little bit. Heat will provide all the excuses in the world. This one was a hard one. As I read it, I was like, man. And this was a thing from Tina Black, my friend. She said, if you're good at excuses, you'll never be good at anything else. It's an easy one to say to people. It's a hard one once it becomes reality in your life. And so heat will provide you all the excuses in the world. Oh, it's hot. Oh, it's this. And if we're good at excuses, we'll never be good at anything else. And then heat will leave you holding the bag. Little bit by little bit by little bit, until you get to a point where you're at a boiling point. Then you have short responses. You're frustrated. You have a short fuse. And then you start making excuses. And you say, oh my gosh, like this is that. And all these people, it's their fault. But heat will always leave you holding the bag. When things heat up in your life, and you don't keep your cool, what will happen is it always leaves you holding the bag. It always, like, you turn around and you're like, yeah, let's do this together, heat. And then when you do it and you get the results, then it's only you sitting there holding the bag. See, after hearing Pete's OG surfer wisdom today and Proverbs 7, I guess it's best to keep your cool. Like, it's best to keep our cool proactively. and it's great because God runs us down with it, and it's just keep, right? So first we have to find it, and we know where to find it. Just go spend time with him, store it up, and then keep it, guard it, bind it, read it, write it, and speak it. If we do that, then we'll stay cool, and then we won't have to worry about how do I cool myself down once I get heated up. Now, you will get heated up, but I tell you, if you can stay focused on this, it'll help you out a ton. If you've lost it, if you've lost your cool, which I have, all you have to do is ask yourself, like in Pete's words, these are Pete's words, so blame him if you don't like them. But if you lose your cool, take a second and ask yourself these 2 questions. Number 1, do I need a little rest? Or number 2, am I full of crap? I would love for every one of you to read Proverbs 7 today and see how it speaks to you. It might speak to you a little bit different. See, that's the cool thing about wisdom, is it's going to speak to you based off your current circumstances. First, we read the word, then it reads us. And so what I would ask every one of you to do is read Proverbs 7 and then ask yourself just these 3 questions. Number 1, where did it hit me in my heart? Where did it hit me? Number 2 is, what did it make me think about? Like, what was on my mind? What circumstance did it make me think about? And then lastly, how can you apply that principle-based wisdom in your life? And so I thank every single one of you. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thanks for clicking the links and sending comments and things like that. And it's been an incredible journey for me that we're continuing on, and we're continuing to learn. But I urge you, because I know that none of you ever lose it, but I urge you to keep your cool. I urge you to look at my example, actually, because I know all of you are perfect and you never do this in circumstances. You guys always stay really cool and you chill out and all of this stuff. But learn from my example and keep your cool. It's been Proverbs 7, Inchstones. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
On my mind, I got 2 shines, so every day I climb. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because